Hello, I'm Maciej Mikos and you're watching World Talks. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz is visiting India ahead of the anticipated signing of the free trade agreement between the EU and New Delhi. Will it change Europe's geopolitical position? To talk about it and more, we're joined by Daniela Schwarzer, Executive Board Member at the Bertelsmann Stiftung. Good evening.
Good evening.
So first of all, is Chancellor Merz in India primarily as the German leader or the EU's top representative?
He's there both as Germany's top politician and as, yes, Germany being the largest country in the European Union, he also obviously comes as a European, and Germany backs the trade deal with India, which you just mentioned. But I think the visit needs to be seen indeed in the broader context of the efforts of the European Union working towards diversifying its economic relationships with partners around the world. Mercosur last week, after decades of negotiation, was a good result. And now the next stop for European trade negotiations in terms of big deals is India. And so I think the message that the German Chancellor is sending is clear. He comes as a European who wants this trade deal, but obviously also German-Indian relations are important. And here again, global issues are on the agenda because Germany is very actively, through its foreign policy, trying to get countries on board for backing the international rules-based order, which is under threat and pressure everywhere. And India is a big country that generally supports this. But there are also questions of bilateral deals, in particular in the area of defense, that are surely on his agenda as well.
Precisely. So does the free trade agreement between the EU and India mean that New Delhi will loosen its economic ties with Russia and stop buying its cheap fossil fuels, which finance the Putin's war machine?
Those issues are not strictly related because the European Union can have a trade deal with India, and India is still free to make deals with Russia. Of course, the political pressure on India may be used at this particular moment where obviously there's a mutual interest to strengthen the relationship between the EU and India. But it has been an issue on the agenda of many bilateral visits and also EU-India consultations that India continues to support Russia by importing cheap Russian oil and also by continuing to buy Russian weapons. But we also see some degree of movement. Since Russia started its war on Ukraine in 2022, India has started diversifying its arms purchases, and the United States, still under the Biden administration, also played an important role in offering a diversification way forward, and so does Europe. But at the end of the day, India will, in my view, stick to its foreign policy approach, which is really very diversified and really trying not to fall into one camp or the other. And so Europeans can at this point only make offers and invite India to take clearer positions, but there's no direct link between the trade deal and India's continued economic relationships with Russia.
Right. Now, only a few hours after Chancellor Merz announced the signing of more than 20 bilateral agreements between Germany and India, the US has invited Prime Minister Narendra Modi to Washington. How would you explain it? Was it a pure coincidence?
Hard to believe that it's a pure coincidence. We see a rising competition between Europeans and the US for relationships with certain partners. And as Europeans try to bring India closer to the countries that stand for a liberal international order, that want to support the sovereignty of countries that are under attack, such as Ukraine, So those efforts are made by many countries around the world vis-a-vis India, but the U.S. also has a keen interest in strengthening its own relationship with India. And I would say competition here between the US, Europe, vis-a-vis India is mostly in the area of trade. And there have been tensions between the Trump administration and Modi through also tariffs. And in my view, it's a signal from Washington, which comes at the time where there's a clear push of Europeans and Germany as the largest economy in Europe with a will to build closer relationships with India.
Now, German Foreign Minister Johann Wadephul is visiting Washington. What is the purpose of the visit?
Well, the purpose of the visit is several things. First of all, it is extremely important in difficult times in particular, and after Venezuela, there is a clear situation where dialogue between the United States and European partners is important. But there also, of course, is what is coming. And here, what the United States, or Trump in particular, has said on Greenland and the interest of the United States to take control over Greenland, or to buy it, to use Trump's terms. That is obviously something that is of big European concern. And I would say the third issue that is always on Germany's agenda these days is, of course, to speak to the US about the way forward in supporting Ukraine, a role which Europeans have taken over more and more. Where big funding is now available to support Ukraine. But of course, it is absolutely important to keep up a confidential dialogue with the American counterpart, where the US strategy is going on Russia and where it's going on Ukraine.
Now, talking about Greenland, is Berlin still considering sending its troops to the island?
I think it is premature to discuss that. There have been certain statements here, but I don't see a clear German position at the moment. I think the most important signal that Berlin is sending is that this is a decision which neither the US nor other Europeans can take, but it's absolutely up to Greenlanders and then to Denmark to decide on the future of Greenland, and that the United States, with their security concerns, which they have voiced, of course, should bring those positions, but to a framework where such discussions can be held, and that is obviously from a German and European perspective, NATO. And the hope is still to find some way forward in terms of a negotiated development where security concerns can be taken into account, but where this happens as part of the alliance cooperation and not, as has been discussed over the past days, as a potential threat to NATO as an alliance. I think that would be of utmost harm to Europe, but also wouldn't help US interests in the medium and long term.
Right now, will Germany ask Donald Trump to finally adopt the 500% secondary tariffs on the buyers of Russian oil?
It's very hard to say. I mean, US tariff policy is so, how can I say, spontaneous sometimes and volatile, very hard to forecast that, but it's surely on the agenda.
Mm-hmm. Now, what do you make of the Polish Parliament Speaker Włodzimierz Czarzasty's trip to Berlin? He wants to discuss war reparations and compensations for the World War II victims, and he'd like to see German investments in defense and joint infrastructure in Poland. Now, would this be something Germany could be keen on doing?
First of all, this government, but also the previous government in Berlin, have really tried to give German-Polish relations a push and to show, and Chancellor Merz showed this on the first day of his chancellery, that Poland is of utmost importance to Germany, that this relationship is very important. So on his first day, he traveled to Paris and to Warsaw. So that's the starting point. Of course, the historical issue is a very complicated one in bilateral relations, and Germany has been confronted with a lot of asks and basically pressures and demands from the Polish side to compensate for the past. And I think what is very important now is that this question of what Germany and Poland can do together, and also how Germany can support Poland as a country which is shouldering a big burden as well in supporting Ukraine, but also in receiving Ukrainians as refugees. It is a country which is on the eastern border of the European Union and of NATO. So the question of supporting the eastern flank is very crucial. And I think we now have a chance that over the past month, a dialogue between Poland and Berlin has been prepared, which is hopefully more constructive than this was the case in the past, in particular under the previous Polish government. So Germany is committed to showing Poland that it wants to work towards stronger support and a stronger, closer relationship. And I really think the chance is now to turn this towards the future in a mutual interest, where investment into defense is being made together. And Germany at the moment is capable, because it put aside a lot of money earmarked for defense expenditure. And I do hope that certain projects emerge which are in the mutual interest between Poland and Germany.
Is Germany about to send its troops to NATO's eastern flank in large numbers? I'm talking about German peacekeepers for Ukraine, but stationed in Poland.
I think that's too early to say at the moment. Right now, the focus, and some of the government members have really put the focus there, is on Germany's presence on NATO's eastern flank in Lithuania, where we are building a German brigade. In terms of supporting Ukraine and in terms of presence in Poland, I think those discussions are ongoing, but it is too early to say where Germany lands on this.
Daniela Schwarzer, executive member at the Bertelsmann Stiftung, was our guest this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed.
And thank you for watching, and stay with us for more interviews here on TVP World.